Less than 2 days after a humbling defeat to Newcastle United, Arsenal fans are dealt another blow as sporting director Edu leaves the club. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another Arsenal Unfiltered. My name is Mark, and as you just heard, today's pod is all about the breaking news, the news that broke today that sporting director Edu is set to leave the club. He joined in 2019. He's only been sporting director, though technically for 2 years, where he was given far more reins over the club. He started to instruct not only the men's team, but the academies and the women's team when he received that role. And it's fair to say Edu has been instrumental in us being revolutionised from a club that was really going down in our estimations, really not going in the right direction. He has been, along with Mikel Arteta, fundamental to changing Arsenal's fortunes and moving us in the right direction with smart transfer strategy, clever negotiation. His role across the club is so far-reaching. It's a really disappointing piece of news for us all to wake up to and us all to find out today as we sit here. It's Monday on time of recording. I will probably release this on Tuesday, so we may be missing any breaking news that comes out around this story tomorrow. But what do we know right now? Well, first of all, we know it's not a rumour. It came out, Fabrizio Romano reported it very early this morning, and it came out officially this afternoon with Arsenal releasing a statement, Edu releasing a statement, talking about his time at the club and how much he's enjoyed working with Arsenal, former Invincible, of course, so he has a real connection with the club, and he spoke in his statement, particularly mentioning Mikel by name, and speaking about his connection with the club and the happy times he's had here. Arsenal have released a pretty generic statement as well. However, there's lots of reporting going around that they're a little bit shocked that this has happened now. There is some rumours that Edu was unhappy with how the CEO position, or filling the CEO position after Vinay left, was dealt with. Tim Lewis has since stepped into a more senior role at the club, and I think Edu potentially maybe feels a little bit hurt that he wasn't more considered for that position. That's at least what the reporting is saying. But we do know that there is a high likelihood, although not confirmed yet, that Edu is going to go and head up a group of clubs, including Nottingham Forest and Olympiacos, thanks to his close relationship with the Nottingham Forest owner. I'm not even going to attempt to say that fella's name if I'm being really honest. But yeah, he has a close relationship with the Nottingham Forest owner, and it sounds like he is going to get the reins of 3 clubs, an international football group, and he is going to do a similar role for those guys that he did for us, except across 3 clubs, and really be an international sporting director in a multi-club model. And we could do a whole pod about multi-club models, the dangers of those, what they mean for football. But I think that's not a topic we're going to go down. That is what is being reported as where Edu is off to. A real shock. And it leaves us thinking, well, what do we do now? How do we solve this? This leaves us, I think, with a number of problems that we need to solve. 2 of which I'm going to talk about primarily today. Number 1 is the general feeling around Arsenal Football Club right now. Disappointing transfer window. I think a lot of people wanted more out of that transfer window, has led into a season with lots and lots of things that have gone wrong for us. Some of our own doing, some done to us, and a really disappointing defeat ahead of 2 very difficult away games, and now we lose a critical person in the Arsenal cog. It's really not a great feeling, and that's probably the biggest problem that Arsenal now have as a club, is it's another blow in what has been a season of blows after blows after blows. Like I say, we have dealt some of them on ourselves, but some of them have been dealt to us. This one really, we don't know. We don't know how true that is about the reporting about the CEO position. We don't know if it was just time for Edu. We don't know if this job offer was so attractive to him that it was just always going to be the case. I think that's the number one feeling the club needs to address. Usually, we address that with a new contract signing or something just to lift the spirits. I know they did the Emirates re-decor when things weren't potentially feeling so good. They announced that helped. Arteta has had a couple of contract extensions announced when things weren't going perfectly, let's say. So I think we need that. Something along those lines, something to raise spirits, and a win on Wednesday against Inter Milan would not hurt. Before I go on to the second problem, if you have enjoyed the start of this episode or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please do consider dropping us a follow. I'm working really hard to grow the community, and I'm enjoying doing these podcasts. I want to keep bringing you more, and dropping me a follow would really help me out. Any platform, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, follow Arsenal Unfiltered. The second problem I think that we are going to encounter now, and really might be the bigger one, is what do we do now for the January transfer window? Edu was our guy in the room. You know, he was helping support our, not just the negotiations, but that link between what Mikel wants and what people like Tim Lewis and previously Vinay can deliver in terms of finances and negotiations, etc. So Edu has gone, and if we don't have that man or woman or person in place to do that work, can we do anything in the January transfer window? Are we now completely on the back foot? That's my main worry. I think the general feeling, whether Edu announced this last week, this week, month's time, if he hadn't gone at all, I think the general feeling would be the general feeling. This news just feels like another nail in our coffin so far this season. But the January window is the one I'm worried about, and I think having had the start we've had, I think there was probably a very good case that we would go and address certain positions in the January transfer window and actually say maybe the Raheem Sterling signing isn't working for us. We need another attacker. We need to actually solve that problem properly. We know we wanted Benjamin Sesko at the start of the window. I presume we'll go back in for him in the summer. Was the start to this season going to bring that forward? And maybe we spend a bit more money to prize him away from Germany. I don't know that. But it's a hypothetical, a question, something that we might have done that I feel is now at jeopardy because we don't have an individual in that role to tie the link between that kind of corporate world, the negotiations and the football pitch. And that's a really worrying place to be, I think. I hope that there are contingencies in place for this sort of thing, for Edu leaving. I hope that we can still manage to produce a very good transfer window and do it without Edu here, and we can take the plans that must already be in place and we can still execute on them. I really hope that. Word for Edu though, a great servant of the club as player and sporting director, oversaw a real proper rebuild, and I always think back to that first transfer window where we really started to feel like we were getting serious again. We got Ben White in, we got Aaron Ramsdale in, we got Tomiyasu in. I think that was the transfer window we signed Ødegaard as well. We did a very good job that year. We'll forget Nuno Tavares and Sambi Lokonga in that group. But you know, as a player, Edu was fantastic for us. Did everything we needed. He wasn't necessarily the star. He wasn't even necessarily the number two. You could argue that was Gilberto Silva after Patrick Vieira in that position. But he did everything that we needed him to do. He was a very, very dependable figure in that midfield. And he's become a dependable figure as he's moved up the club. And I think you can only tie the progress that Arsenal have made in terms of not just the men's first team, but the women's team, selling out the Emirates for the first time and producing multiple crowds of 45,000 plus. The work he's done with Per Mertesacker to set the academy up and push that in a better direction, and the general strategic move they've had in the academy to really make sure that they are producing fantastic young men and women, not just great footballers. They're really valuing and supporting educational things in terms of looking after those young people. Edu has been involved in all of these fantastic things that have changed in every aspect of Arsenal, not just the acquisitions we've brought into the first team and the way he's supported Mikel, but actually growth in the women's game, growth in the academy. So it's a big thank you to Edu. I wish he wasn't going, and I think there are reports saying that Arsenal wanted him, if he was going to go, to at least see this season out, which again would have been my preference, so we could have managed that January transfer window better. Unfortunately, we haven't got that. I really do hope that if Edu is off to this kind of 3-club model, that works out for him and things go well. And I really hope that Arsenal have contingency plans in place so that we can manage a positive January transfer window regardless of this surprise exit, which has caught us all off guard. That is that for this episode, a short episode covering the news of Edu's departure. Like I mentioned in the middle, if you have liked this podcast, please consider dropping us a follow, Arsenal Unfiltered. It would mean the world to get a couple more followers on board. Every little helps, as they say. And stay strong, Arsenal fans, because it is one thing after another at the moment. We are getting hit with things that we're doing to ourselves, like I said, things that are being done to us, and these things that I don't think anyone predicted at the start of the year. But good luck to Edu. I hope everyone who is an Arsenal fan that's listening to this can still remain positive, and let's go and get a massive win away at Inter Milan in the San Siro on Wednesday. Thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon.